And we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. This is the May General Membership Meeting. The topic of tonight's discussion is actually our guest speaker, Scott Speer, is going to be talking about going from his W-2 to being a traveling investor, living the dream with his beautiful wife of 36 years, and how they've been to California and back already since finding freedom through real estate. Long-term member. I remember working with Scott when I was at Home Depot as a W-2, and he was a W-2 just getting started about, 12, 13 years ago. So congrats to him for sure. We're just going to go through some real quick business. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. We welcome everybody, first-timers and long-term members alike. Freedom First is a 501c6 nonprofit dedicated to real estate investing, education, and networking. And your dues are tax deductible if you did not know that as a business expense. Here's the disclaimer. Basically, we don't give you advice. You have to consult with your own team of advisors on everything you hear tonight or anytime from REIA before taking any action. Thank you, drive through. The agenda for this evening, this is it. Sign in, networking, the welcome. Vendor members, we don't have any to give any updates tonight, so that'll be quick. If Scott wants to speak or if Carl wants to speak a little bit about what they do, they're more than welcome to do so. They just have to speak up and let me know one way or the other. No, all right, cool. Well, in that case, then we're going to bounce right into Under One Roof. If you don't know what Under One Roof is, they are pretty much the only body of coordinated landlords, housing providers, and real estate industry professionals that is working to lobby New York State to stop lighting the industry on fire. They're keeping everybody informed on what's coming and what's going, and there's more to come on that. We have some local people here in Rochester that are helping to coordinate and expand those efforts to local lobbying, as well as we see a push towards more local municipalities regulating who can and can't be landlords and going for good cause eviction and all these things they couldn't get passed at the state level. They're now trying to trickle them down and get them passed on a local level. So more to come on that. REIA is a local chapter of National REIA. National REIA gets you all kinds of cool benefits and discounts and rebates and you name it from a multitude of different vendors, special pricing. Check them out for sure. If you're a member of REIA, you're a member of National REIA, whether you know it or not. And with National REIA comes the opportunity to earn a professional housing provider designation, stand out from the crowd, show that you're an expert, show that you are dedicated to operating a great, ethical, and professional business, and that you're not a dirty, scummy landlord looking to steal from people and take their housing. So our speaker tonight is Mr. Scott Speer. Here's a lovely picture of him standing in front of his home, which is a home on wheels, as you can see, purchased recently, and has how many miles are on it now, Scott?
40, we put 4,500 miles on it since November.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So he is currently a partner in 6 self-storage facilities in 5 states, and he is always looking, as well as providing private lending for real estate deals. And then some news and announcements, which we'll cover later. So Leon, would you like to say anything tonight? Because you are here, but you have not spoken or turned on your camera.
I think my camera is on, right?
There you go.
I see him.
You're good. We can see you now.
Okay, now I have my mic muted, but had my camera on for a few minutes. Yeah, so where should I start? I mean,
If you have
Andy
anything you'd
covered,
like to say,
Andy
an
covered,
anecdote, a story you want to tell about Scott before we get started, now is your chance. Because I don't want to go into the craziness from all of the calls I was on today because that's not going to make anybody happy. So we'll save those for the end.
Okay, I missed a lot of what you were saying, but yeah, I mean, I've known Scott for a while, and I consider it to be a pleasure to be able to kick this session off. If you look back over the past few months of this year, we've had some great subjects this year for our general meeting. But more importantly, I mean, the speakers have been absolutely outstanding. Tonight, we have a person that I've known for quite a while. Andy said he's known him for 12 years, so I had thought, roughly 10 or 12. So we both have got to be pretty close to right. So I'm looking forward to this presentation by Scott, because he and I got together and I said, Scott, you really got to give us some ideas about what you're doing in self-storage. And that was the latter part of last year. So we typically put a fair amount of work into coming up with the speakers. We've had some really outstanding speakers up to now. And for the remainder of this year, we have a great group of speakers. So just want people to, as much as possible, join in and listen to, I just use my own terminology, freedom first experts. And that's what Scott is. I mean, he basically started off looking at real estate as a possibility. A lot of the training and knowledge that he's gotten, it came from Freedom First. I mean, I look at him as being Freedom First creative real estate investor. There are several folks who fall into that category that are here on this call, and probably quite a few that's not as well. But I know for myself, I look at folks and say, yeah, these folks, they're successful. They're successful because of a couple of things. One, they're willing to pick up the knowledge and information from a group of people who have information that they're willing to share. And by the same token, those individuals like Scott, they're willing to say, okay, here's the information that I have. Here's what you can do to be successful. And so I watched Scott and his journey that he's taken from just working every day, 9 to 5, and then just says, hey, you know what? I can do this. And he made the switch. And he started off just doing rent to own. That was one of his main first things that he did. And he was very successful at that. He's done landlording. Sorry, bad word. We got to get rid of that word. For some of us who've been around a while, it's going to be a challenge, even though I know for myself, I've been trying to get rid of the word landlording and use housing provider for at least the last 6 years or so. But the thing that happened with Scott is that he was able to do a number of different things. And I mentioned being a housing provider, but he's also private lender. And so most of those items that I just mentioned came because of the fact that he was a member of Freedom First who gave his time and also got rewarded with information from others that helped him to be successful. So I'm not going to take up a lot more folks' time. I just want to, while I have the microphone, so to speak, to let people know about a couple of things coming up. And before I do that, I'm just going to say, Scott, I've been waiting for this presentation for a long time. And so I'm ready for you to hit the ball out of the park. So just a couple of quick things, and then we'll go to that. The next session that we have, we're planning to try to do an on-site rehab project review. And so we did this a couple of years in the before. I'm going to say it was 2017 probably, where Pat Gallagher actually took us to one of the properties that he was rehabbing. It was on site, and we were able to actually look at what he had done. He broke down every element of it. That's what we're planning on doing in June, July. And so one of the things that we need to do is make sure that people understand it's on site, so we will follow the COVID protocol that's required, but that's what the plans are. And I say that because I want to make sure I mention the next, it's a general meeting topic for August. I know a lot of people are wondering, are we going to actually have a picnic? Are we going to try to do that again? And so right now, we have the picnic scheduled. And it's scheduled for Thursday, August 19th. And so we're gonna have all the goodies like we normally do. And we want to have a big crowd of folks there. All of it is, of course, dependent upon COVID-19 and how those things are working out, because it's all controlled by New York State, the numbers and how many people and whether you're going to wear a mask or not wear a mask, all those things. And whatever they come out with, that's what we're going to follow. And we will have a picnic. And I hope that everybody is as excited as I am to have one coming in August. So I could go on and on with a couple other things, but I know you can't wait, like I can't wait to have me give the podium over to Scott and listen to some of the great things that he's been doing in the self-storage arena. So Scott, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Liam. I appreciate that nice intro too. And yeah, we do go a ways back. I'm like you, one of the charter members of REIA when it started up, and I'm glad you took it over and kept running it and all that. And it's been a long journey, but we even knew each other before that. So, but yeah, no, glad to be presenting tonight, everybody. It's self-storage has been a lot of fun. My journey into self-storage has been great. A lot of people out there willing to help in the business. And I'm just going to kind of go through some basics, how to find deals, how to fund them, what to look at when you're looking for deals, and just let people know there's still deals out there. It's getting, the market's getting a little tight, but there's still deals out there to be had. And if you have questions, I like being interactive. A Zoom presentation is a little different for me. I like being interactive. So if you have questions while I'm going through it, feel free to ask. I'll kind of keep an eye on the time too and see that just kind of keep track of time, and I'll have time at the end for questions and answers too. So with that, Andy.
Scott,
yeah.
I'll start with the first question.
Okay.
So what motivated you to get into self-storage? What was the trigger?
When you see the numbers, you'll see why. It took me a while. Funny thing is, Mike Wagner has been, he's a coach of mine. He's a friend of mine. We've been friends for a lot of years. He did a presentation in his group some time ago. And my wife brought up the fact that our first rental was his last rental to sell. He got into self-storage when I was getting into renting, having rental properties. And it was kind of funny. And he'd been after me for a while to look at the self-storage thing. And residential real estate just was really good for me. I found some good deals, made some good partnerships, and the residential real estate was good. But when I wanted to start traveling, because it's always been a goal of my wife and I, we thought we'd do lending. And I sat and talked with Mike for a while and said, hey, can I do this self-storage thing? And he says, yeah, you sure can. And here's how. So that's how I got in it. And now that I'm in it, it's a lot of fun, a lot of good people involved with it. And it's something I can do remote. Whereas I know I could hire a good property manager like you, Carl, to manage my rental properties, but my wife didn't want to have anything to do with that. She just wanted out of the rental business, that part of it. So I said, okay, what else can we do? And that's why we moved into private lending and self-storage, and it's more so self-storage now.
She's a smart
Thanks.
lady, dude.
Yeah, that's for sure. Uh-huh. Yeah. So any other questions before I get started with this? All right, what we'll do. I'm probably gonna check my watch every once in a while and make sure I'm not boring you. I'll check for eyelids too, make sure I'm not putting anybody to sleep. But Andy, what do I do? Just do a screen share here?
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes.
Okay.
I just gave you the ability to screen share. So you should be able to click it
All righty.
at the bottom and then pick which one of them you want to have up on the screen. There it is. It's working.
Okay, everybody see that okay?
It's beautiful.
Great, thank you. And I hope everybody can hear me okay. I am using the earplugs. I'll be okay. The headset. And but thanks everybody for joining tonight. I do appreciate it. I understand it's a nice night there in Rochester, New York, but I appreciate you all taking time out to listen and learn on this. And I know we have a few guests that I invited to come, and I'm glad to see that they're able to make it too. My name is Scott Speer. My contact information is up there, and I also have my contact information at the end. But Leon's been after me since the end of last year to talk about self-storage, and I kept putting him off because of travel plans and a few other things, and wanting to learn more about self-storage before I actually came on and spoke about it too. So thanks, Leon, for your patience in doing that. And so, but I'll get right into this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why self-storage, but just like everybody else, I got the Scott Speer disclaimer. Scott Speer does not render tax, legal, accounting, investment, or other professional advice. If tax, legal, accounting, or other similar professional assistance is required, the services of a competent professional should be sought. I do not endorse any particular investments. Rather, I offer information only. Any and all of the commentary, statements of opinions, and recommendations contain only general advice and have not been taken into account for your personal circumstances. And I mean that wholeheartedly too. What's right for me may not be right for you. I know there's lots of other people on this Zoom call that specialize in other things, and I know that I'm just not good at them. And self-storage, it's been good for me. It's been really good for me. So I'm hoping that we can learn something tonight. A quick intro on me. Oh, go ahead.
That's a Steve Peterson frame right there, right?
Yeah, Steve would be proud to see that. So I still have the enjoyment of talking to him about once a week or so. I really miss him, and I miss all you guys. But it's nice to have conversations with him, and he's helped me with quite a few deals, even on my national deals, my own self-storage in 5 other states. And he pretty much has reviewed every document that I've sent to him. They are state specific, but he's been a lot of help, and we're hopefully closing on one in New York here soon. And he's been help with that one too. So little quick intro on me. As Andy had said, I was born and raised in Rochester, New York. Married my lovely wife, Christine. I call her Baby Doll on Facebook in 1984. Went into the Air Force. She went along with me for 6 years. We traveled all over the world, had a great time, and came back to Rochester to raise a family. I worked some W-2 jobs. What I did was 2008, I got pretty serious about building real estate. After talking with Leon and Joe Lavabera and a few other realtors and all that, in 2008, I said, okay, let's do this. Let's start building a real estate portfolio. And built up a nice portfolio of rentals, did some flips, did a bunch of rent to owns, various other real estate investing while still working a job. And in 2014, I was able to stop working my W-2 job and just focus on real estate at that point. And that was a big change. But with the help and guidance from a lot of people, I was able to do it and stick with it. I started, Carl will enjoy this. I started selling off my portfolio in 2018. I had no idea COVID was coming. For me, it was just really was a timing thing. But my wife and I, it's been a goal of ours for years to travel full time in an RV. And that's what we're doing. So we started selling off our portfolio in 2018, started doing some private lending and started looking into self-storage. We sold our house and 90% of our belongings and moved into a motorhome on November 13th, 2020, and started traveling all because of real estate. I know a few people on this Zoom call, Carl Weeks and a few other people. You bought some of my belongings and I appreciate that. I'm glad to see that a lot of that stuff went to good homes. We joke with our kids that we did them a big favor by selling all our stuff already. But really, you can achieve the goals that you want. We're going to talk a little bit about vision and goals, and you can achieve the goals you want in real estate. You just have to be persistent, consistent, network, work your tail off. I was working a W-2 and I was working 40 more hours at least on top of that until I got to a point where I could just focus on real estate. But to me, real estate is this single best way to become financially independent and to be able to hit the goals you want for you and your family. Where I am currently at, right now I'm sitting in Roanoke, Virginia. RV is parked here. My wife's father, he's 83 years old. He's decided to move into assisted living because of some health issues and stuff. He's good now. He's in the assisted living. He's very happy. But one of our visions was to be able to make sure our parents were taken care of. And we're able to be here because of real estate and spend time with him and make the transaction happen. So that's been a big blessing for us. So that's where I'm currently residing at. We closed on our first self-storage facility on August 31st, 2020. I currently have ownership in 6 facilities. I have many partners, equity partners, lenders. I consider them all my friends. I do not own a facility by myself, but I currently have ownership in 6 facilities and there's more than 520 storage units, 84,000 square feet. In 5 states. The 5 states, I have 2 in South Carolina, 1 in North Carolina, 1 in Alabama, 1 in Pennsylvania, and 1 in Missouri. So, and on top of that, we did a land deal. I did this land deal with Bob Miglerati. Some of you may know, a partner of mine on some other deals too. We purchased a piece of land in Farmington. The piece of land was originally approved for 5,200 square feet of self-storage. We purchased it for $16,000. Went before the board, took about a year and a half to get it approved because of COVID and everything. And that we changed that to 13,200 square feet. And instead of building on it, we decided to put the land up for sale. And we did have an offer and we're closing on it very soon, like in the next week or so, for $140,000. So that's one thing we can talk a little bit about too, is finding land and getting it approved and just take it and selling it like this. This is a big thing. But going through the process of approvals, it's time consuming. So let's see. We'll change something here.
It's Scott, just a question.
Yeah, Carl.
Any of these deals involve a crowdfunding kind of concept?
Yeah, they have. And one I'm gonna be closing on in New York. I have 2 of them in process right now in New York, and I am looking to do some crowdfunding on one or both of them. So yeah.
And for the newer people, you explain what that is, crowdfunding.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Carl. I also, with Bob Miglerati, we ran a lending co-op where we would vet the properties they wanted to buy, and then they come to us for a loan. What we do with crowdfunding is, let's say someone to borrow $100,000. somebody'd say, hey, I'm in for 50, and our person would say, I'm in for 20,000, our person for 10,000, our person for 20,000. Once we had the whole $100,000 secured as crowdfunding, then it would be on a note and mortgage. Everybody would be listed on the note and mortgage for the percentage that they were in the mortgage. And y'all were listed as insured, and that's how we're going to do our other deals too. And that's how crowdfunding works. The lending co-op, we did slow it way down during COVID and during this unbelievable, insane market that you guys are experiencing right now. We were very conservative, and we took the stance of let's just slow the lending co-op down. So that's why people haven't heard a lot from Bob and I about that. What people are paying for real estate in Rochester, New York it's insane. I can't put a word on it, what I'm seeing houses go for. But that's what
Scott,
crowdfunding is.
I can't figure it out myself. In all these years, I cannot. Anybody help me out? Why this phenomenon is the way it is? By the way, you're Bob and you are still operational, or did you guys?
Yeah, we still are operational. We've only done a couple loans, and the loans that we did mainly were lenders that came to us and said, hey, could you vet this person and this property for us and manage it? And those are the ones that we've taken on. So it is still operational. It's just we haven't really ventured out to a lot of other people. So that's where that's at right now. So is that, everybody understand what crowdfunding means when I said that? If you don't, let me know. I'll certainly answer the question. Okay. Thanks for asking questions, Carls. And we, with the crowdfunding, it's been very good for us. It's like private financing. But it was a good business for us. We did good at it, made people a lot of money. Knock on wood, all our loans have been perfect. A couple of them we had to extend a little bit, but we informed the investors beforehand. So we have a good track record and want to stick with that. But the insanity I'm seeing in Rochester, right now I'm telling flippers, I would get people working on my house 24 hours a day if I could, just so you could turn those properties. Who knows how long it'll sustain, but right now, man, just get contractors in there working 24 hours a day if you can. But anyways, sorry, back to self-storage. We wholesale 2 facilities. On those 2 facilities, we made $120,000 in wholesale fees. That's like Joe LaBarbera money. I hear the wholesale deal Joe LaBarbera does, and I'm like really proud. I'm like, man, that's like in the Joe LaBarbera money, But with that, I used my Equity Trust Roth account, my Roth IRA. So I was able to put $60,000 into my Roth IRA tax-free. I never owned the property. My IRA did put the property under contract. My IRA did put up the earnest money deposit for the property. And if need be, my IRA would have been a partner in the property, but we decided to wholesale them. The person I was partnered up with on those 2 deals, he had some debt he wanted to pay down. I'm like, great, let's just pay your debt down and let's learn from this. So it can be done. Like I said, $60,000 tax-free. Mario can't get it, and not Mario, I'm sorry. Andrew can't get his hands on that. I already paid the taxes going in on that. If you want to learn more, definitely check out Equity Trust. They are they're part of the national REIA. And if you join Equity Trust, they do waive, I believe they're still waiving your first year's maintenance fees. So, and if you need help structuring that, a deal like that, let me know. I'll work with you. We have many partners and investors, and I'm looking for more lenders, investors, partners. You'll like this last sentence. We're willing to pay huge finder's fees. On those $60,000 wholesale fees, I'm willing to work with people on those for sure. That's why I put the finder's fees in dollar bills. And we're willing to work with people too as equity partners on deals if they find them. If you find a deal and like, hey, I don't really want the cash, I'd rather be an equity partner and enjoy the accelerated equity in 2 to 3 years, great. We'll definitely do that with you too. But if you're out there, you see deals, let us know. We'll look at them. we'll look at them with you. We'll walk through them with you and see if they're a deal. So, any
Scott,
questions?
this is almost,
Yes.
yeah, this is almost, and I don't want to hog, everybody jump in. Come on. This is almost in the realm of alternative investing category, right?
Mm-hmm. No tenants, no
Explain,
toilets.
yeah, explain that a little bit, right? It's just you
Yeah.
get a piece of the pie and make some good returns.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, the business has been very good for me and for my wife and I, my family and I. And we just we're willing to share in it too. What's the saying? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. You know, I'd rather be a fat pig, you know, so but I'm willing to share. That's I talk with all my partners about that. Hey, we're making money, let's share with other people. So yeah, absolutely.
Scott, I got a quick question for you.
Yes.
People who bring you deals, what's the minimum size that you look for? Or what is it that you look for before you even thinking about looking at a deal?
It depends. That's like asking Joe LaBarbera, what size deal does he look at on Avenue C and D and all that stuff, and in Penfield. It really depends. Size-wise, if the numbers work, we'll make it work. I've been involved in one that was 4,800 square feet. Certainly not a big one by any means, but what we did was we sold that to somebody else who lived local. Worked perfect for him. He was able to learn it. Now with ones that I'm looking at, I like to be in the 10,000 square foot and up, but if somebody has something small and the numbers work, we'll make it work. We'll find a way to maybe sell it to somebody local.
So Scott, for us beginners,
Yes.
like me on this, how many units is 10,000 square feet?
That's a good question.
I'm like,
Great.
okay, 10,000 square feet. How many, could that be 100 units, 50 units, 20? I have no idea.
Somewhere between 20 and 50 units.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a
No,
smaller
good
one.
question. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me piggyback off of Joe's question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in rental real estate, location, right? So how does the self-storage come into play with that? Does it really matter?
Yes and no. I shouldn't say I don't. I have not yet gone into a big city. Like let's take a Denver or a Houston or Atlanta, Georgia. The big REITs are there, like apartment complexes and stuff. There's deals in those markets. There is. And if I had a deal, I'd take it. But a lot of these units are like in the rural areas. Let's take like a Warsaw type area, Warsaw, New York. Let's see, like Avon, New York. Rural neighborhoods that there's some people living there. A lot of these operators are mom and pop operators who are ready to retire. So that's where we've had big success is in that secondary and tertiary markets. That's where we've had a lot of success. So
Self-storage, Scott, is needed everywhere and anywhere, right?
absolutely.
And I think you're familiar with Chester's and Lake Avenue one over there, and so on. There's a new one that popped up in Mount Reed. I don't know if you're involved with that. An old Kodak building went self-storage in Mount Reed. Huge place. I don't know if you're aware of that one, but
no.
So I've seen location really, it's needed everywhere. So location's not a factor, unlike residential housing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's really not. For sure.
I have
Okay. Yeah.
You wholesaled 2 facilities. Were they storage facilities or were they?
Yeah. Yep. They were existing storage facilities. And what I actually did with part of these is I rolled part of my wholesale fee back into the facility. So I was an equity partner in it. But they were self-storage facilities, existing self-storage facilities that were up and running. One was about 20% occupied, he already has it in 9 months. He's already 90% occupied on that one. We're looking to expand. And the other one was in Pennsylvania. That one was 78% occupied. And it was just cash flowing from the get-go. The one in Pennsylvania was. So that answer your questions?
Thanks.
Yep. All righty. Okay. Question. Should you invest in self-storage? Like I said in the beginning of the disclaimer, I don't know. I don't know if it's right for you, but there's lots of people out there willing to help. Self-storage it's a business. It's not mailbox money. If you own a facility, if you manage a facility, you have to treat it like a business, just like your real estate business and all that. Treat it like a business, not a hobby. It is work, but a lot of self-storage facilities, about 30 days, they're kind of running themselves. When we go in and put the things into place that I have coming up on the slides, they run themselves. They really do. I know people that live in New York, have facilities in Florida, and they've been there once in the last year and a half. But the big thing is, I'm gonna talk on this for a little bit. You gotta create a vision. What do you want your life, your business to look like? What do you want your family's life to look like? That's the big thing that helps me. I do have a vision statement. I put it aside for a little bit because we got sidetracked with some things, and I actually pulled out and read it today and had to do some updates to it. What the vision is kind of like, what do you want your life to look like your perfect life, with your family, with your friends, money wise, travel wise. What does that look like? You can close your eyes, and what do you see when you close your eyes? That's what your vision is. And so without a vision, you can't write your goals, and without goals, you don't know how to act. It's like a ship without a rudder out there sailing around. If you don't know where you're going, you're going to get nowhere fast. I am guilty of that myself. Sometimes I lose my vision. I got to reset my goals. Our big goal was to be in the RV by September 2020. We missed it by a couple months. It was November of 2020. But there was just some extenuating circumstances that we didn't hit that, but we put a date on it and we did hit it. I tell people, the plans are in sand, but the goals are in concrete. So, but you got to have a vision. If we're going to call and talk, I'm going to want to know, what's your goal? What do you want to do with this? Where do you want this to take you? And that's why. So this is why you need a well-defined vision. It gives you a big why to keep you motivated when persistence is needed. Joe Lavabera, my good friend and the alternatives partner, he has a big why. And that's what gets him up. That's what gets him motivated. That's what keeps him going. And there's going to be times out there, it's tough, man. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to make that phone call. You don't want to deal with that problem. But if you have a vision and a goal and know where you're going, it makes it a lot easier to do that. So, yeah. Does anybody have anything they want to comment on that? I know it's a whole nother subject, honestly, but.
No, I concur all over.
Yeah, thanks. So that's it. And I'm going to show you my whys here. Here's my whys. My big goal is for my wife and I to be in that RV traveling. Andy put the picture up already. That's our home. It's not a fancy RV motor coach, not a vacation thing. It's our home. That's what we live in. It's a monster. And with gas prices the way they are, it kind of sucks. It's 130 gallons on that thing. It costs $300, $400 to fill that thing up, and it gets 7 miles of the gallon. But I don't have any property taxes. I don't have any lawn maintenance. I don't have leaves I have to rake up. I don't have to worry about shoveling snow. That's our home, and we love it. It's been a big adjustment. And I'm so glad to be with my wife traveling in that thing. It's so much fun. And being able to be where we want, when we want, it's part of our vision. You can get there with real estate. To the right there, that's our 2 kids. We're in Roanoke, Virginia. Our daughter lives in Denver. Our son lives in California. They flew in for Mother's Day. They surprised their mom for Mother's Day. We pulled it off. If you're Facebook friends with me, there's a video that we put up. It was a lot of fun. We had a great Mother's Day weekend. And on the bottom there, on the bottom left, that's my dad. Like I said, one of my big visions is to make sure my elderly parents, my wife's elderly parents, are taken care of. This is why I make phone calls when I don't want to. If I need to get pumped up, I'll call Joe Lavabera. I have bad days. I do. I call Joe and I might boo-hoo-hoo with him for a couple minutes, but then we start getting pumped up, and that's what you need. You need people that are going to bring you up. But this is why I do what I do. My dad is 84 years old. He's healthy as could be. He's holding a V8 motor that he built as a model. It works. It operates. It took him 40 hours to do that. He's having a good life. So I'm real happy to see what he has going on. I miss him. But I did go up for his birthday. April 15th was his birthday, and I was able, because of real estate, I was able to go up there and do that. In the center, that's my father-in-law. He's the one we just moved into assisted living here in Roanoke. And then on the right is my wife's mother with our kids. So that's my big wives right there. Yeah, it's vacation, it's trips, it's toys and stuff too, but really this is why I do what I do. All right. Okay, applying what you already know. If you're a real estate investor, you got the fundamentals down. I hear people on calls all the time. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. There's lots of ways out there to learn. The fundamentals are the same in this business. When it comes to real estate investing, treat it like a business, and the fundamentals are the same. Buy it low, rent it for more than it costs you. And then you have the option, you can sell it for high or keep it for cash flow. My facilities right now, one we closed on in October in Missouri. We paid $110,000 for it. We got on the market for $200,000, and we have it under contract already. We're not going to hold that. It will cash flow. It didn't fit in our vision, what we wanted to do. I'm going to go through like what the physical differences are between some investing. Maintenance and repairs, no tenants, no toilets, and there's a third T, but I can't remember what it is. But evictions are a little bit easier when it comes to this. But yeah, I've gotten those phone calls on Christmas Day. Hey, my toilet's plugged, when I had rentals. We don't have that. My buddy Mike Wagner says cleanouts consist of a leaf blower. People move out, you bring in the leaf blower, the cleanout's done, you're on to the next tenant. A big thing too, and this is what really struck me when Mike Wagner talked about this, income to expense ratio. Carl, I'm going to ask you if these numbers are true. I know it was for me. Approximately 50 to 55% of my expenses in rental houses went toward, 50 to 55% of the income. So for every $100 I made, $50 was going towards expenses, taxes, all that stuff. Do you find that to be true with your investors?
At least, I'd raise that to 60%.
Okay. All right. With self-storage, it's 30 to 35%. So in other words, for every $100 you make in self-storage, you're keeping $65 to $70 versus on a rental house for everyone that you own, you're only keeping $45 to $50. This was the biggest thing. And I found this to be true with self-storage. So that's a big difference between the two. What's the state of the self-storage industry? The default rate's less than 8%. Less people default on a self-storage loan than people who have their own single-family residences, believe it or not. Occupancy rates are up nationally, rental rates are up nationally, and values are up nationally. Self-storage has a proven resistance to economic downturn in 2008. It did lose value, but not near to what all the other investments did. Not nearly. And there's been a big shift, and Carl Weeks talked about this too. There's been a big shift, and this has just started, where office space, people are buying up office space and office complexes because of COVID and Zoom. People just aren't going into office spaces. My daughter worked in accounting. They're all work from home now, and they're not going back to the office space. What some smart investors are doing who have really deep pockets, the REITs are doing this too. They're buying office complexes and turning those into climate controlled self-storage. So Carl, what you said about that Kodak facility, that's exactly what happened here. So we're starting to see that big shift. I still will buy the mom and pop storage myself. So go ahead.
Scott, there's something here that's not involved with rental property, and that's a default rate opportunity, and that's the storage wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to touch upon that a little bit later on in another slide, but
Mm-hmm.
there's an uptick there. I'm not sure if you gain profit from that or the manager does, but eventually you'll talk about that.
Yeah, it varies state by state. If somebody owes you like $800 in back rent, you sell off the contents of their storage facility. If you do get $1,000, $800 can be applied towards their late fees. You have to search the person out in certain states and give them back the difference. In other states, you get to keep that difference. That varies state by state.
What's it in New York?
I am not sure. I'll let you know once I close on my first facility in New York. So
Have you ever had to go through that process?
yeah, yep,
Okay.
yep. And in South Carolina, you actually keep the difference in South Carolina, but it's very rare. And I'll get into that why it's so rare that we have people that don't make their payments. And lots of people are getting into self-storage, but it's just like residential real estate. Lots of people say they want to do it, but a lot of people, they're just not sure. So, 90% of the people are still looking, 10% of the people are doing things, making things happen. There's a few people on this call. They're making things happen in self-storage. There's still deals out there. You just have to drive around for them. It's just like real estate deals. Yeah, brokers are going to have deals. Realtors are going to have deals. And I have some sites on here where you'll find some deals. But the real deals are just these ones that aren't advertised. They're in whatever town. But there's deals out there. Gabe has a decent deal he's working on now. I'm very excited for him. And we're hoping that comes together. There's a lot of moving parts, but we're very excited about that one. So, and that's right here in New York.
Scott, what seems
Yeah.
to be the common denominator of why these sell? Retirement, burnout?
Yeah, retirement, burnout, inherited, kids inherited it. They really just don't want it. Let's see, health, a lot of health issues. One or the other spouses get sick. They just like, we need an infusion of cash. So there's the health issues. A lot of people build them, and that's not like their primary focus, which I'm guilty of that. And my wife will attest. I was doing a lot of things, and some things I was doing good, and some things I just wasn't doing so good. But find a lot of contractors and stuff that build these things, and they're like, I make more money building houses than I do in the self-storage business. I'm like, great. What do you want to sell it for? And a lot of times you'll be surprised. We're actually paying what people are asking for these things because the numbers just work. But that's it. It's health, retirement, inherited, burnout, and just other things that they have going on. A lot of people are getting into Airbnbs and VRBOs. So investment strategies, got a couple of different ones. Buy existing. That's what we like to focus on. Turnkey versus value add. I'll go into that. Conversion, buying a big warehouse and converting it to self-storage. There's some pluses and minuses with that. Ground up development, same thing. There's some pluses and minuses there. You've seen what I did with the land in Farmington, and we're not even developing it. And then there's a hybrid model too, which I'll get into that. So turnkey and value add, which one fits your vision? When we talked about vision, which one would you rather do? I own both. Turnkey means it's pretty full. It's operating well. It's fairly automated already. You just show up. It's like a rental house with a good tenant. That's a good property. That's what turnkey is. They're easier to find. Cash flow from day one. Typically these things are cash flowing already. You're buying them, you're getting bank financing, which is fairly easy to do on these. And they're just cash flowing. Less hands-on. You don't have to worry about rehabbing it like some of us buy houses and rehab them. You don't have to worry about that with turnkey ones. Third-party management's typically already in place on these. What that means is there's companies out there that'll manage facilities for you. Easily to finance from the banks. Require a bigger down payment though. In some cases, banks want 20-25% down. And that, you may or may not be able to create an exciting amount of equity. In other words, they're working, they're cash flowing. You didn't buy it for equity, you bought it for cash flow. And I have some like that myself. They cash flow. Equity upside on is decent, but they just cash flow. Versus value add. These are the mom and pop ones. They're harder to find. They aren't on the websites. They aren't being listed by brokers. People want to sell them, but they don't know what they're worth and they don't know how to sell them. Some of them negative cash flow. I know we had one facility, it had 0% occupancy. The daughter inherited it. I was in Macon, Georgia. We just couldn't make it work. There was some extenuating things on there. That one we couldn't make work. Purchased one with 23% occupancy. But it's going to take some elbow grease. It's just like buying a house that has to be rehabbed. You're going to get in there, you're going to do some fix up, you're going to do some cleanups, you're going to probably put a fence around it. Recommend to do it yourself. A lot of these, like I said, are mom and pop already, people operating them themselves. Sometimes people owner finance them. You have these older couples, they like the monthly residual. They don't want the big tax hit on capital gains. They'll owner finance them. You'll be surprised, but you have to ask. I'm guilty of that myself. Sometimes I forget to ask. It's like, I'm so excited to get the deal. Then I go back to them and say, hey, you want to owner finance this? They're like, no, we're going to get cash. But we have a 3-tier approach when we make offers to people. In some cases, cash deal, owner finance, and bank financing. There's 3 different price points on there too. That's a pretty involved situation. I'm not going to go into that. You can get private financing on these, just like the Burr strategy. You buy it, you rehab it, you get rented up, and you refinance it. That's what we do with these. Smaller down payment. A lot of times the owners are like, hey, give me $5,000 down. Not a lot, but some cases like, give me $5,000 down and I'll finance the rest. Great. We have one that we're in the process of probably buying. The guy is owner financing half of the purchase price. Our first, and it's going to be interest payments to him. Everything's kind of getting deferred, but our first payment to him on a $225,000 loan is $50. The second month, it's going to be $100. My partner came up with that. I'm like, wow, really? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll do it. But he knows he's getting the other half cash. So, but $50 on the first month, $100 on the second month, $150 on the third month. I said that one's for the record books. But with value add, you have the big equity explosion. That's where there's lots of upside on these. And I'm going to get to one of them that I did if I have time. Okay. Okay. So conversion, like Carl Week said, you find some empty space. The trend is office space right now. Planning boards might be more receptive to it. Instead of having a big, ugly, empty building, they'll work with you on approving self-storage. It's going to take some time, but it's possible. Benefits over developing properties. There's equity swings, which is much shorter runway. Instead of buying a piece of property and developing the building on it and then renting it out and stuff, in this, you're halfway there because the facility's already built. And there's lots of companies that will convert these into self-storage for you. What? Believe it or not. You can get creative, at least option to buy. There you go. We're possibly working on one of those right now. We'll see if it comes together. But you do lose space. Like you got hallway space, you're putting up offices like in there. And so if you buy a 100,000 square foot building, plan on just losing 20,000 square feet. You can't make it all storage. But if the numbers work, the numbers work. Partitions, to put partitions up at a low cost, $6 per square foot. Must be 20,000 square foot or the price goes up. It's all relative on what the materials cost. If you're buying more materials, the cost per square foot's less, just like carpet. I want to say lumber, but that's probably a bad example. And shingles. So does anybody have any questions on that?
Scott, have you seen any impact on pricing as far as steel goes yet? Because I'm hearing mixed reviews. Everybody's saying commodity market is on fire with steel, but it hasn't necessarily translated into anything except for steel roofing at this point, as far as I can see. What are you picking up? Anything?
We're just starting to see that now, 20-30%. One guy was talking, he had a quote from 6 months ago, got updated quote, price went up 40% on the materials from 6 months ago.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I kind of figured it was coming and it was trickling down slower. I just haven't been able to quite put my finger on why it's so out of whack with everything else going up so rapidly.
Yeah. Is what it is. We got an expansion that we're looking to do. We probably could have started it 6 months ago, but we had some other things we wanted to do first. And now it's, our costs go up, what we rent them out for goes up too. It's all relative. Let's say development, possibility for huge equity explosion because the cost to develop is so much less than the final value. When you purchase an existing property, you're paying $20 to $60 a square foot. You can develop these for right around $20 a square foot, brand new facilities. You could, that's probably changed a little bit. It definitely has, but you gotta have deep pockets too, because it's like building an apartment complex. You just gotta wait, you gotta pay the construction loans and all that. There's a ramp up time to break even. If you have 10 move-ins a month and you have a place that has 500 doors on it, it's gonna take you a few months to fill that thing up. It's harder to phase a project. You just need to take care of it. It's the project management of that. It's more time consuming. If you find a good GC, then you're all set for development properties. We love the model. It's a hybrid model of value add and development. We like to buy facilities that you purchase an existing facility, there's some value add to it. You get the rents rate moved up, you get it operated, you get it stabilized, you get it filled. And then you have the benefits of developing, because right now we just purchased one that when we put in the offer, it's in North Carolina, it was 75% occupied. It took 3 months to close on it. When we close on it, it's 95% occupied. So it's worth more than we paid for it already. And the guy selling it, he's in construction and stuff. He's like, hey, I had people moving in. It's all automated. I know it's 95% occupied. Congratulations, here you go.
So Scott, I have a question. You touched upon supply and demand, right? So in your experience all around where you go, are you seeing a strong demand where we're hitting 100% or close to it?
Yeah, we are. And you call the surrounding competitors, and a lot of them are like, my 10 by 10 is this price, but I have none available. My 10 by 20s are this price, but I have none available. This is one of the things, and at the end, I have a link, not a link, but I need your email. If you want a link to a good 7-day intense training, you don't have to focus on it for 7 days, but Mike Wagner calls it a 7-day training. You have to get a link to it. It's almost like a private Bigger Pockets. It's open to anybody, but I'll send you the link. I'll send everybody the link that's on this call. And where was it? Oh, Mike Wagner says that you really want to be like 90% occupied. I'm like, why not 100? He goes, well, 90%, you're at the top of the market rent wise. And this is probably something Carl Weeks is very good at. You're at the top of the market rent wise, and you're only taking care of 90% of the customers. If you're 100% full, that means you're too cheap. If you're 80% full and everybody else is 100% full, you're too expensive. You have to find that happy medium, and that really takes time. So we like to run at about 90% occupied. Yep. Let's see. So like with this, we're buying ones that need to be fixed up. They're kind of mismanaged right now, and you fill them up and then you can develop them. That's why I always look for something that comes with land. You minimize the risk associated with ground up development, the phasing of it, because you're cash flowing fairly quickly on these. And then the cash flow, once it's stabilized, it funds the expansion. My example I'm going to give here in a little bit, we purchased it for $250. It's all ready to be expanded. And we have banks who are like, we will fund the expansion. We will give you all new financing because it's cash flowing now. When we purchased it, it was only doing about $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month, and now it's doing $7,700. So that's what we're doing. Here's how to find deals. If you guys want to snap a picture of this or whatever, go ahead. Networking, reach out to people, network. Joe Lavavera is a master networker. That's why he's such a good wholesaler. He talks to everybody. I don't know when that guy sleeps. He calls me at 6 o'clock in the morning and says, "Hey dude, it's lunchtime. What are we doing?" I'm like, "I'm just getting out of bed." So, but networking, that's it, man. Just reach out to people, talk to people. You know, don't hesitate to reach out to people. When you network, bring value. And this is something Andy McQuaid probably could teach a whole class on. When you're networking with somebody else, bring value. Make that person want to talk with you. Say, "Hey, I got this deal. I'm willing to partner up with you on it." Joe Laubera does this all the time with people. People come to him with deals and they're like, "Hey, I'll split it with you 50-50." And they're bringing value to Joe. And that's it. When you're networking with somebody, just don't call to pick their brain. Bring some value. Find out what value you can bring to them. And that's something, like I said. Yeah.
Speaking of networking, Scott, I heard that you're part of the national organization of self-storage, whatever that is. I mean, there's got to be enormous connections there, right? Talk about that.
Yeah, it is tremendous. And it's about 20% of the people in that group are active. And there's people that have 1 million square feet of storage in that group. There's people who have 3,000 square foot of storage in that group. They're national. It's a storage investor nation. And it's one I spoke at. The one that Mike Wagner runs, man, he's got a bunch of active members in there all across the country. I've met people through traveling. They're like, "Hey, I'm in Alabama. You gonna be coming through?" "Yeah." "Okay, let's hook up for a cup of coffee." A guy knew I was in Roanoke. He's like, "Hey, I'm an hour away. If I drive into Roanoke, can we meet up for coffee?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So yeah, join those networks. Facebook, there's a bunch of Facebook groups in self-storage. LoopNet, Crexy, those are like the broker ones. Those are the big ones. listselfstorage.com, all these mailers and cold calling. There's people who love to market. They love to cold call. You can do it in this business. Craigslist. These are the big brokers that are moving and shaking in self-storage. It's Speer, Van Nuys, Marcus and Millichap, and Argus. They're the big brokers that deal with self-storage and commercial properties. Is it a deal? I'm going to hammer through this stuff a little quick because Mike really breaks it down in that 7-day thing I was telling you about. I think you can join it. You have access to it. Then he has different levels inside, but you could just be a free member and just stay in the group. And he has a lot of detail on this. So you have time to look it over. I call it a 7-day training program, but that's what he calls it. It's back of the napkin, just like when we did flips or when Joe does a wholesale deal. "Hey, I can sell it for this. It's gonna cost this much to fix it. Here's my wholesale fee. Here's what I need to buy the property at." And that's what the back of the napkin is. If you can do it on a napkin, the deal is probably going to make sense when you really get into the financials. And you don't want to spend a lot of time doing that, 15 to 30 minutes. Used to be, it'd take me hours to analyze a house I was going to flip. Joe Laubera will attest. He can walk into a house and within 5 minutes, he knows what he's going to pay for that house, what his max is to pay on that house. It's because he's done a ton of them. And it's the same with this. You can do it in 15 minutes. Once you've done a few of them, don't get frustrated. Take your time, do it right. I tell people, who won the race, the turtle or the hare? Slow and steady, man. Let's see. There's quick financials to look at. NOI, net operating income, and the gross rent multiplier. Price per square foot. Competition, supply and demand. That's a whole separate thing. I'm going to hit on that a little bit, but that's involved. But you have time to look at these things. Back in napkin finances, income minus expenses, that's your NOI, net operating income. In self-storage, it should be 35%. So if the place is producing $100,000 gross income, it should produce about $65,000 net operating income. What I tell people is a good way to look at it is the NOI. So like I said, it's grossing 100 after expenses. It's grossing in some cases, because some people have more expenses than ours. Let's say it's 60,000. Well, an example down here, you get the as is value. So as is value, buy a property, it's only half occupied, the collected rents are about $30,000. A third, a little more than a third of that is 12 grand. So the net operating income is $18,000. Okay, if this doesn't make sense, don't worry. It didn't make sense to me for a long time. Repetition is going to get you there. So the value at a 10 cap is $180,000. Somebody comes to me with a deal like this, and the value at a 10 cap's 180, and they're paying 180 for it. I'm interested, but the reason I'm interested is on the second side is the potential value. At half occupancy, it's collecting 30,000. The potential value at 90% occupancy with rent raises is $60,000. Your expenses don't go up that greatly, but let's say it's a third, so 20,000 off. Your net operating income is $40,000. Now the value of this property at a 10 cap is $400,000. Okay, it's going to take work. But how hard do you have to work to make $220,000 at your W-2 job? So when somebody comes to me with a deal like this, I get excited. And that's what this is. This is probably the quickest, to me, the quickest example of how to figure out what something's worth. Okay, gross rent multiplier. This gets a little more complicated, but it's not too awful hard. The purchase price, let's say the purchase price is $213,000. Annual rents is $60,000. The gross rent multiplier in this is 3.55. Anything under a 4 to 5 is a pretty good rough metric. That means you probably got a pretty good deal on your hands. There's other things that go into effect on that, but it's a good, quick napkin math. Let's do this thing. And don't let the asking price scare you. Call and get a sense what the seller's motivation is, just like everybody. People want to be heard. Now, I'm talking a lot, and I'm not used to, well, I shouldn't say I'm not used to that, but I always say God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you talk, but I'm talking now, so sorry. But find out what the people want. Hey, you're going to sell this place for $213,000. What are you going to do with that money? Find out what their why is. Why are they selling this? What are they going to do with that money? Once you have that, you talk about that, they really start visualizing it. And they're like, you know what? I really want to do that. I really want to sell this place, and I really want you to buy it. Joe Lababera is a master at this. He just is. And he's paying people what they want in some cases because it's a deal for him and the people are happy. He puts that vision in there of what do you want to do? And that's what I try to do. If it's not a deal, what will make it a deal? There's a guy, Gabe is the example. The people had a ridiculous ask on it. He countered back and forth, came to an agreement, and we think it's going to work. What makes it a deal? Does that price make it a deal? Let's go. If you put someone under contract, don't worry about it. There's ways around that. Price per square foot. Does anybody have any questions on that? I know I hit NOI and gross rent multiplier pretty quick.
Yeah, Scott, annual rents, is that gross, net, or actually collected?
Gross rent.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Good question. Price per square foot. Used to be you could buy a place, clear the land, all that for about $35 a square foot. So if you're getting 100,000 square foot unit, well, no, I'll take that back. If you're getting a 10,000 square foot unit for $350,000, you might be getting a good deal. We recently purchased one for $200,000. There's 10,000 square feet. Well, actually, we're selling one right now because there's value add to it. It's 9,400 square feet. It's in Missouri. We're selling it for $200. It's about $22 a square foot. It's less than it costs to build it. The guy buying it started getting nervous, and my partner on it, he said, because he's like, well, if it blows down, I have to get approval to rebuild it. The guy's like, if it blows down, you're insured at $35 a square foot. 10,000 square foot. If it blows down the day after you close on it, that's a blessing because now you're getting $350,000 for something you paid $200,000 for. But that's what it costs. I'm going to still stick with about $35 a square foot to build a place. So if you're buying a place and it's in good shape, it's under $35 a square foot, you probably have a good deal on your hand. once again, don't let the asking price scare you. Don't be afraid to counter. You know, Joe can teach you all about negotiating on this.
Hey, hey,
Yeah.
Scott, I do have a question on that. Is that, does that include the land, that 35, or is that, how does that $35 to build, is that just the development cost after the land is already in hand?
Nationally, it includes the land. So that's where we're at with that. That's what the national average was, but that's like in the rural markets where we're playing, not in like the New York City, Denver, Colorado, you know, all that goes out the window at that point. When you're picking up land at, you know, like rural prices, like what you could pick up something for in Avon, let's say, or Palmyra, or Holly, New York. That's kind of a good gauge right there. That help?
Yes, sir, that answers it.
Good. Okay. The supply and demand. What you want to do is check 1 to 3 mile radius around a facility. I'm not going to go into this, is pretty deep. I'm not going to go big into this. Mike Wagner has a very good thing online. You can find articles online about how supply and demand works in self-storage. What we want to do is check the market 1 to 5 mile radius. If you're like in New York City or a big city, you want to check what's the competitors in that 1 mile radius, and then what's the population in that 1 mile radius. When you get into the city like Rochester, or into the suburbs, like let's say Greece, what's the competition like 3 miles away? Because people drive like up to 3 miles to get to a storage facility. If there's one that's 3 miles away and there's one that's 5 miles away, if they're the same price, they're going to the ones closer. And when you get in rural areas where we play a lot, 5 miles is typically what you're looking at. 5 to 7 miles, depends how rural it is. And that's a website right there that you can use to find a population within a radius of a place. There's also radiusplus.com, Google Earth. You can find the competitors there. And with the square foot available divided by the population equals the supply. We typically look for something that's 7 square foot or less per person in a market. So in other words, in this case, there's 210,000 square feet of self-storage available. Population's only 30,000. The national average is about 7 square foot per person. It's different in New York because people have basements than it is in Florida where they have no basements. And it's also different in Virginia because people just store their stuff outside here. I'm a little surprised sometimes. But so the number varies, but this is just like the national number that people use. So let's see. Primary analysis. Once it passes the preliminary, the napkin math on that, once it passes that, then what you want to do is a site visit. Gabe did this perfect. He found a site, the numbers kind of work as far as we see. He went and did a site visit on the property, did some videos, did some pictures, asked around, checked out the neighborhood, some of the competition was. You want to do a full market analysis. I'll go into that a little bit, a full financial analysis, and a full competition analysis. Remember the first part we did on the napkin in 15 minutes. This is a little more in depth. In 15, 30 minutes, you figured it out. You're like, this is probably a deal. I'm going to go check it out. Then you do your site visit. Okay. Full competitive analysis. You go there, you drive around, you confirm on Google who's up to date. There's facilities out there that aren't even on Google. They're just mom and pop, never went social media, nothing like that. They don't pop up on these big websites. There's been 20,000 square foot facilities that aren't on the website, and that's your competitor. So that adds to your competition. So you want to be aware of that. That's why you want to drive around, ask people, call and visit, get rates and gauge for occupancy. You'll be amazed how many times you call people like, yeah, 10 by 10 is this and a 10 by 20 is that. I have a waiting list. And you'll be surprised how many times that happens. That's great news if you're buying a facility there. And then locate all on a map to assess the strategic location relative to the population. It's that circles that we talk about, 1, 3, 5 miles, 7 miles from the facility. And here's just a spreadsheet on one that we called and checked on. That's the competitors. That's where the rates are. You can see people are all over the place. Lackawanna self-storage, a 10 by 30 is $140. There's a place, Uncle Bob's is getting $199 for the same size space. That's $59 a month. That's what, $700 a year different that Uncle Bob's is getting, because Uncle Bob's is a big national chain. So just check your competition. It's going to tell you where you can be at. All right. Full financial analysis. What you want to do is you want to get 12 to 24 month the trailing numbers from the sellers. I ask for 3 years. I try to get 3 years. Compare what they show expenses to be to what the industry standards is in self-storage, 30 to 35%. Like I said, you'll find a lot of these mom and pops tend to run around 40 to 45% because they're paying somebody to be there and manage the facility. But this is just some rough ideas of how much your income is going to go towards your expenses. Valuation, once again, multiply the net operating income by 10 to get a ballpark. May or may not be reasonable if you're looking at value add facility. Cap rate, we already talked about that. Consider the value of vacant land. Like I said, you get a facility that's already full and you can't expand on it, you're kind of stuck. You want to find something that has land you can expand on. But I've purchased deals that were landlocked. I can't expand on them, but they were only 50% occupied. Consider value add of the value of value add potential. What that means is tenant insurance, selling locks to people. There's some places where people sell pallets. They have one storage unit that's full of pallets. If people don't want to put their stuff on the concrete ground, they can buy pallets from him for $5 a piece. He pays $3 a piece for them. They go in, they buy them, and that's a value add for them. Some people do U-Haul. I wouldn't do U-Haul myself. I want these to be able to remotely manage, but some people do figure that in. You have to deduct the cost of deferred maintenance, just like buying a house. Take Carl Weeks with you. He's going to walk through and tell you what the house needs. It needs a new roof right away. It needs new electrical, all that. Deduct the cost of deferred maintenance. Figure that into your price. And also consider the cost of imminent capital improvements. Going to put some new doors on, going to need to paint some facilities, going to have to bring in some gravel and such. Doesn't have to be done right away. Like I have a facility right now in South Carolina. We had to fix a roof on one building. It was $12,000. The other 2 buildings need to be just maintenance needs to be done on them. But the guy said we could wait a couple of years on those. So we already budgeted for that. It's just like buying a house. Like I said, it doesn't change. Making an offer. Okay. Letters of intent versus a purchase offer. I tell everybody I talk to, put in a purchase offer. Do not send a letter of intent. The reason is a purchase offer that we use gives you 45 days due diligence. Lock it up. If you were selling something, would you rather get a letter of intent that somebody's going to buy it, or would you rather get a contract? That's what I tell everybody. Get a contract on it. When you write up the offer, it's divided into 2 parts. Our purchase offers are divided into 2 parts. You're buying a property for $450, it's assessed for $300. You want that to be the real estate price of it, $300,000. Then the other $150 is business, customer list, phone numbers, sellers, goodwill, equipment, things like that. That's so you don't have a big jump in assessment. If you go to an assessment board, you can say, hey, look, for the real estate, I paid this. So that's just the way we write up offers. Due diligence, let's see. When you write up the contract, there's 2 parts to it. There's a due diligence part, then there's the closing part. Due diligence asks for 45 days. You want to be able to verify all the information they're going to give you. And, 3 years of profits and loss, 3 years of tax returns. What are their expenses? The rent rolls. You're going to want to see the rent rolls. You're also going to see it again at closing, just like a rental house. How much is it bringing in now? And also before you close on it, make sure a tenant's still there. Management summary times 12 months. A lock audit, walk around the facility, see how many of the units really are occupied and which ones aren't.
Scott, what is
Yeah.
a lock audit?
Good question. On these storage facilities, the doors have the locks on them. And a lot of times they have two ways to lock it. That way you can call it overlock somebody when they owe you money. You put your own lock on there. So what a lock audit does is let's say there's 100 doors and they say, hey, I'm 90% occupied, but you walk around, only 50 of the doors have locks on them. I find it hard to believe the guy's 90% occupied. That's what a lock audit is. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a form on Mike Wagner's website. I know I keep promoting them, but that's kind of like the bigger pockets in my book of self-storage. He has this contract on his website, tells you what to ask for in due diligence. So, all right, any questions on that? All right. Okay. So now closing. You're going to ask for 45 days after you're done with your due diligence. Typically, you're closed quicker than 90 days, but you have a 45-day due diligence period, which at that period you can get out of the deal. Things didn't match up, whatever. You get out, your due diligence, you get your earnest money back. I've never had a problem with that. After you commit to due diligence, that's when you're typically putting the earnest money deposits down. Then you're committed to buying the place. Okay. One of our vendor members in New York State, I highly recommend using attorney Steve Peterson. He's done a lot of commercial deals, some very, very big ones. The one I'm looking to purchase in New York State, he's involved with that one. I can't stress enough how good he is at what he does.
Scotty,
Yes, sir.
please don't tell me that Steve is going to require estoppels for 100 doors.
He's not, only if you ask him to request them, and I do not request them.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Mm-hmm. Explain to everybody what a estoppel is. Anybody who's new on this, in case they don't know. Carl.
Me or you?
You.
Yeah. So an estoppel is a certification signed and verified by the manager of the tenant's rent amount, security deposit amount. So it's a verification of that information for a closing. And yeah, you have to go to each tenant to get their signature with a witness. So yeah, pretty intense. So that's why this doesn't make sense for a self-storage.
Yeah. As a seller, I always hated having to get the estoppel certificates. As a buyer, I always requested them. I didn't always get them, but I requested them.
Yeah.
Once again, physical property inspection, just like buying a house, 24 hours before closing, you better be there walking around the place. You still should do that even in self-storage. Things usually don't change, but sometimes they do.
Have you ever experienced any big differences on that final walkthrough yourself?
Well, the only one was the one that we're buying that we thought was like 77% occupied was 95% occupied. That was the only big change I've seen. I know people who there's horror stories of flooding, erosion, vandalism and stuff like that. So yeah, it does happen. Closing's coming, so it's time to start getting the utilities switched over, the insurance, lining that up, financing, a caretaker. I'm going to go into what a caretaker is, and there's many more items too. I could bore you guys with all that, and I think I bored you enough with this. But okay, funding options, seller financing. Love seller financing. And I let the people a lot of times dictate the terms they want to put on it. Hey, I want to do it, but I want to do it with a 5-year balloon. Okay, do you want to loan me the money for 5 years, or would you like me to pay you off before 5 years? No, I want you to wait 5 years to pay me off. Okay. Conventional loans, small business loans. They're very good, especially right now. They're very, very hot because I think the first 6 months of payments are waived. The SBA funding fee is waived, but it does take longer, especially now with COVID and all that. SBA loans are taking 60 days, 90 days.
SBA will lend on self-storage?
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
Yep. If you are getting funding on it, make sure you have a good relationship with that banker, or reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with the right person who will tell you yay or nay on the loan quickly instead of dragging it out. We've all experienced that with a mortgage person. They mean well, but they just can't close it. They can't fund it, but they keep kind of carrying it along. I've met up with a couple of guys who are pretty sharp at it, and they'll tell you right away, yeah, we can fund it or we can't. Partners, private money, combination of all of these. I've done all of them between real estate and self-storage. I've done them all. So the one owner who's financing the one that we're possibly buying in New York State for $50 for the first month, he's taking a second. We are, because we're getting our loan on it, and the loan is in the first position. He's willing to take the second position on that. Call it a wrap guy. I don't know what you want to call it, but that's how that one's working. Okay. Operations. Okay. Now we get into the why self-storage. Easy storage solutions for management. They're a call center that takes care of everything. I'll go into more detail. You want a caretaker or boots on the ground. A lot of people call them boots on the ground. I call them caretakers. It's just a wording thing. They take care of the facility. They live local. They stop by and check on it. They work between 10 and 20 hours a month, and you overpay them for that work because they're saving you a lot of time. Let's see. Another way you can do it, you can self-manage it. If you live local and you want to self-manage it, don't want to worry about the boots on the ground, that's fine. It's another way to operate it. Run it with your own employee. New York State, I know, is a little different than a lot of other states on employees, but you can do it that way. Third-party management. There are companies out there that will run your facility for you. And there's big companies that'll do it for you. You might have to fall into their paint scheme and such like that, but they'll come in, they'll run the facility, they'll send you a check every month. Okay. Let's see. We use a 3-prong system with us, remote management, 3-prong system, call center with a website, caretaker boots on the ground, automated gate and fence, bonus is cameras. Excuse me. I cannot operate a facility without these things in place. And this is where self-storage is so exciting for me, because we can remote manage things. I don't have to be there every month checking in on a place. I don't have to be there every week checking in on a place. All this is taken care of. Call center website, easy storage solutions. There's a lot of us who use them. We're in a big group. We use them. They take all the calls. Customer service, the customer calls the phone number on the board. It goes to easy storage solution. They take the call. They email me with updates and questions and concerns. If a tenant has a question, they don't know how to answer it, they will call me if it's an emergency, or they'll send me an email and I can reply back to them. They take care of it all. They offer tenant insurance. Anytime a tenant picks up tenant insurance from them, I get 30% of that. So if it's $10 a month, I'm getting $3. It's one of those value add. They rent the units out for you. People call in, they take the application, they send it to the people, they do an e-signature, contract goes back, they give them the code, they get in. They collect payments. Everybody we have set up is on auto pay, whether it's ACH or credit card. All our new tenants, that is a requirement. When we buy a facility, some of the facilities, people are paying cash and check. We offer them incentives to go on to credit card billing or ACH, because I just want everything to be automated. They collect the payments, they send us a payment about twice a week sometimes. ESS does all this. It's relatively inexpensive. It's $2.09. Let's say it's $2.90 per door. So if you have a facility that has 100 doors at it, you're going to pay them $2.90 a month to do all of this for you. It's more than well worth it. Don't tell them I said that. I don't know anybody else who will property manage for that cheap. But it is based on total doors. If only 20% occupied, you have 20 doors, or only 20 people there, you're paying for all 100 doors, because the goal is to get it full. It's the only fair way to do it.
Scott, is this the
Yep.
third party management
Yeah.
scheme you're talking about?
Yeah, this is a third-party management. There's two types of
So
third-party
is this a
management.
call center or is this actually a
Yep.
physical person?
Call center.
So you have the caretaker and the call center combination.
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Call center takes all the calls. The caretaker doesn't. If a customer needs to meet, we'll set it up for the caretaker to do it, but we really don't want to. We really just want them to take care of it themselves.
Okay, Scott, how
yeah.
do they get their keys and open up the door and move the shit in?
We left the doors open, but we're going to put in locks on all the doors that have a 4-digit code. And, somebody's moving into unit 27, ESS knows what that 4-digit code is, and they tell that person. And at this facility we're doing it at, we let them keep the lock. It's $10. We let them keep the lock. Some people want to bring their own locks, and that's fine. We're okay with that. But it's, it's a 4-digit code. And like I said, lots of times they put their own locks on them. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting out of rental real estate, Scott. Thank you very much.
You know how many times I had heard this from Mike Wagner before I said, this makes sense. Yeah. Websites. Customers can move in 24/7. They can go to our website. They can move in. They fill out the application. It goes to them for e-signature. They sign it, goes back. They give the credit card on file, take a picture of their driver's license. It all goes on file, and boom, they can move in 24 hours a day. We're thinking about limiting that where people can only get in like from, dawn to like from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. because nothing happens good at night. You know that, Carl. It's but we know there's cases people like, hey, I got to go in at midnight. Can you do that? Yeah, we can activate their gate code to get in at midnight. But we're at our facilities, we're starting to move to like, okay, up to 9 o'clock at night. Anything after that, you have to call and get approval. And we can activate just their code to get in the gate. I'll get into that. Let's say they can move in online and they pay online too. So we want them to be automatically paid. We want a credit card that's good or ACH that's good. Every month we're hitting their card. We hit their card and it doesn't go through. 5 days, their code changes. They can't get into the facility if it has a gate with a code on it, which 4 out of 5 of mine do. And I'll get into the details of that. But imagine
now the third party manager handles all that, right?
Yep.
Not you. Okay.
Yeah, they handle it. It's in the system. What happens is, the software is coded that somebody's 5 days late, their code to get in changes. They can't get in until they call and make full payment or go online and make full payment, and then their code's reactivated. That's all done by the software.
Can we do that with, rental evictions?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I'm sure. I'm sure Andrew would have no problem with that.
We're going to lock you out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
Oh,
yeah.
That is great. So
Good.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
So homeless shelters. How often?
Yes, sir.
How often do you get into that?
It's happened a few times. People pay $60 a month to live in a 10 by 10 unit. In our lease, it states you cannot reside in the facility. Believe it or not, yes, it's in there. We can have them removed. There's security cameras. 4 out of 5 of my facilities have security cameras. And when they punch their code to get in, most of our facilities have to punch a code to get out. So we know when they're coming and going. And there's a record. Nice thing about ESS, they keep recordings of all the phone calls they make, all the text messages, because they can send text messages too, which we really prefer. And they have a gate code log. They know when somebody's come into a facility and they know when somebody left. So if we suspect unit 27, they're living there, we can just go to the code log and figure it out, and then we'll report them or have them removed.
And there's a huge uptick with this right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's why the next thing you need the next few things. Let's see here. All right. Okay. Caretaker, boots on the ground. This is the guy who works, guy or girl, retired military, landscapers are great. Teachers are great. Firemen are great. Policemen are great. I don't know if I said retirees, they're great. They work 10 to 20 hours a month. They love it. Their task, lock and door audits, what we said about the lock audit, Carl. That's what they're doing. Clean outs and also cleaning around the building. They mow the grass and do snow removal, or they manage somebody to do that. We have a couple caretakers, they take care of that for us, and we pay them extra. We have other caretakers, they don't do it, but we hire a lawn maintenance company to do that for us. There's some advantages to having somebody mow the yard and somebody be boots on the ground, having two different people. They kind of keep each other in check, which is nice. Just eyes on the property. Whenever they drive by, they usually stop in. They don't charge us for doing that, but they just stop in. We want them to treat it like they own it so that we forget we own the property. But we want the tenants to know that the property is being taken care of. And that's what we want our boots on the ground to do. And that's how we explain it to them. Treat the property like you own it, and so that I forget I own it. In other words, if I don't hear from you, things are going good. They handle auctions. Online auctions are really becoming the rage. That's a whole different subject. And then they act as like a GC sometimes. If we have subcontractors coming in to do work, they'll stop and make sure the work is done. We like them to communicate with us weekly or monthly. Text messages usually are enough, but we do weekly calls in the beginning, and then they usually go to monthly calls. How do we find the boots on the ground? Facebook. Just ask around when you're out there visiting the site. Ask around, stop at a diner or something like that, or stop at a fire department. Hey, anybody looking for a part-time job? I'm paying $25 an hour. Cash? Well, I'm 1099 you, but just ask around. You'll be surprised. Old owners. We have one facility where the old owner is our caretaker, and he loves it. The facility, that's one that was 23% occupied, is now like 80-something% occupied. And he loves it. He goes in and he mows the grass for us, and he takes care of the place, and he loves it. It's kind of like he still feels like he's the owner. It works out great for us. It's that local presence. Google, you can find boots on the ground people, and Indeed. We just did this at a Morganton facility. We put down what the hours were, about what the pay would be. We had 112 people reply who were willing to take on a part-time job. Out of that, we talked to 20 of them. Out of that, we talked to 20 of them. We did face-to-face interviews with 10 of them, and we narrowed it down to 2 people. One guy's a boots on the ground. The other guy does a lawn care and lawnscape. And I was shocked. And it was only like, I think like $19 to do an ad on Indeed. And we got over 100 qualified candidates for that. Okay, fences and automated gates. You have to, 4 out of 5 of my facilities have an automated gate. The gate opens when the keypad entry and exit. When we're putting in new, we always like to have keypads on the entry part and the exit part. The reason for the exit part is somebody can wait for somebody else to pull in. They pull in behind them if they're not paying their bill. But on the exit, it's a little harder for them to time that. So we typically know. The keypad is awesome because it's all controlled by the software. They don't pay their bill. Like I said, after 5 days or whatever the state rule is, they can't get into their facility. You don't have to worry about putting that second lock on there. Sometimes we do, but they just can't get to their stuff. They call, they're mad, they want to get their stuff out of there. Great, you owe us, $125. Pay us and you come get your stuff. And there's security cameras all over the place, so we're going to see what's going on. Gates tied to the call center. The gate can be opened remotely. There's a way to go in and have the gate open. If somebody's stuck in there, we can open it remotely. It's security for the clients. People like when that gate closes behind them, they know they're in the facility, they're safe. And like I said, past due, the code is deactivated until they become current. Cameras and recording systems. 3 out of 5 of my facilities have cameras and recording systems. 4 out of 5 have everything else. 1 doesn't have cameras. We're probably gonna put cameras in. You put cameras on all the entrance and exits, covering all the facility if possible. I can pull up on an app and check my security cameras when I want. Also recording for security. Somebody breaks in, we know what time it was recorded, file police report, give the police a video, and 9 times out of 10, they know who it is because these are small towns. Okay, I want to see if I can change something here. Okay. Here's the find. Here's one that we found. Close on this August 31st, 2020. It's the first one that I bought with a 50-50 partner. I'm going to go through this quick because, man, oh, wow. Okay. There's 6.9 acres altogether with 3 buildings. You can see the fenced off part to the top right. That's just the fenced in part. That's where the self-storage is, but all this is approved for self-storage, and it's, excuse me, a clear lot. 16,860 square feet of storage on this facility, 126 units. We're only using 2.3 acres now. So in other words, we're only using a third of the land right now. We can expand. We are ready to expand on that one. When we bought it, it's 43% occupied, no website, no rent raises in 12 years. The kids inherited it from their dad. They had it for like 2 years. They just didn't want anything to do with it. The dad never raised rents. He was doing okay with it. So for 12 years, these people are paying the same rent raises. So we knew there was upside there because they weren't paying what the market was doing. And there was strong demand in this neighborhood. Reason it was only 43% occupied is kids never answered the phone. People called, leave messages. The kids just wouldn't call back. They had other things going on. So we're very excited about this one. Let's see. With this one, here's how we did the funding. The purchase price was $250,000. You can do quick math for the price per square foot. Remember, it's almost 17,000 square foot. We paid $250,000 for it. The upgrades, we put in an automated gate and security cameras and roof work and stuff. Closing costs, $11,000. So our initial project was, let's say, $300,000 all in. Bank came to us. They'd only loan us 75% because the occupancy rate was so low of 43%. Plus, we didn't have experience in self-storage. But they gave us 75% loan. We said, hey, okay, we'll take that, but we give us the first 6 months of interest only. They said, absolutely. And it was great. It was a small local bank, awesome to deal with. I love doing business with them. Look forward to doing more business with them. Here we are for 9 months from there. Occupancy is up to 77.7%. Rent raises to market rates have been put in place. We only had a couple move outs. People like the fact that we put cameras in. They like the fact we put in the automated gate. We did lots of things that they just liked. They felt safer. They were willing to pay more than market rates, but the people who were existing, we just brought them up to market rates. Anybody new moving in is actually paying a little bit more. So with the rent raises and higher occupancy, remember I had 300 into this place. The current value of this is 650,000. Not bad. This is a little better than typical, but this is not unusual. We're getting ready to add 2 more buildings and expand the parking lot for boat and RV storage. Woo, I could park my RV there. I could do it now, but there's a ton of banks that want to loan to us on it. We'll probably go back to the bank that originally loaned to us on it. Say, hey, it's worth 650. Give us 80% of 650, and then we'll figure that out. Okay, so keys to success: buy it right. 10 cap. I love buying things in the 10 cap at the current rents. Customer service and sales. Treat it like a business. Treat your customers right. Treat your customers how you expect to be treated. Marketing. Go to the internet. Find a good manager. That's your key. Boots on the ground. The caretaker. Find a good manager. Network. Join groups. And keep at it. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Joe Laubert and I harp on this all the time. Just keep at it. I know it sucks. I had one guy close on a facility. Day after he started looking at it, he had a contract on it. He was brand new. Another guy who was very experienced, it took him 18 months before he got his first deal, but it's well worth it. He had in his first month, he had 40 people move in the first month he owned it. So very nice for him. So just keep at it and define your vision first. Like I said, go to your goals, go to your vision. What do you want? What do you want out of life? Does this fit into your goals? It may not fit for you. I understand that. It works for us. Okay, I got some special thanks. My lovely wife, Chris, she puts up with us all the time. She's kind of tired of hearing me talk about storage. That's why I like doing these things, because I like talking about our storage people, but I got to balance. Our wonderful kids, Trevor and Ashley. The FREIA board members and the sponsors. Without you, I would not be where I'm at. I want to say a special thanks, a big shout out to Leon, Joe McGuire, Susan, Annie McQuaid. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Joe Lavavera, my partner in crime. Also Carl Weeks. I know you do the landlord thing. Beth Short, Pat Gallagher, and Bob Napier. They all do the landlord support group. God knows they need support now. I feel sorry for them. I pray for them every day. What's happening to them should not be allowed to have happen. And all the REIA members. Networking with you guys has been awesome. Special thanks to Mike Wagner. I've talked about him a number of times, the Storage Rebellion team. All that helped me with this presentation. You know, I had some people like, hey man, can you send me your presentation? I'm like, yeah, I'll send you what I got. So I pieced some things together. A special thanks to all my partners, managers, lenders, and friends, all you guys on this call, and all of you for attending this tonight. I know it was a nice Friday or Tuesday night. What is it? Thursday night. I'll be okay. I forget what day of the week it is. That's the thing about being a, rolling investor. But thank you all for taking time to do this. I appreciate the questions. And that's it. I really appreciate it. Here's my contact info. Feel free to reach out to me. One thing I'll say again, we're looking for investors. We're looking for partners. We're looking for finders. We're looking for lenders. If you find a storage facility, get as much information you can about it. We'll see if we can make something work. And also send me your email, or I can talk to Susan about this. If you send me your email, I can give you the free access to that 7-day storage program. So send me your email and I will, or if you want it, and if I have your email, just let me know and I'll send you the link for it. It's, like I said, sort of a private group, but it's kind of open to anybody. You just need a link to get into the group. So
How do you unmic and then clap for this whole thing? Come on. Everybody, come on. What are you all doing? Awesome
thank you,
job.
Carl.
Awesome job. Yes.
Thanks.
I'm going to interrupt for a second because I don't want the presentation, Scott's presentation, to end, quite so quickly. I have a couple of questions for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that other folks probably do as well. We talked a little bit about Equity Trust Company. Scott, is it possible for you to go into a little bit more detail about your B2C type of transaction that you do associated with Equity Trust?
Yeah, with Equity Trust, if you have money sitting in a 401k at a job you left, contact Equity Trust. You can take your money. If you have a pension, it's different, but if you have your money in a retirement plan and you're not sure what's going to happen with the stock market, you can take your money, put it in a retirement account. You can use it to buy investment real estate and kind of control your future, your destiny. Like I said, with my Roth IRA, the two places we put under contract, I had to put up my earnest money deposit. We wholesaled the property. We made that much money and I had to split it. That's all tax free. In other words, for the rest of my life, when I get that money out, it's tax free. It won't be taxed. IRAs you have with other companies, that's what I did. I go work at a company, I'd max out my 401k, I would just pound it. When I left the company, I take that money, roll it to Equity Trust. Excuse me, now I use it for investing. I use it for lending. I use it for buy and sell storage and various other things I'm doing. Does that answer your question, Leon?
Yeah, I think it does at a higher level. I was looking at something a little bit more detail, if you will. So just maybe, can you take us through maybe one of your transactions where you did that and how you actually did the A to B to B to C, sort of the option portion of it? So it's not a simple, straightforward answer, more of a detailed answer. And the reason why is to have folks understand that this is the way that you've done the things that are associated with self-storage, but for folks who really want to be involved with self-directed IRA and Equity Trust, it could be almost any self-directed IRA company, but one of the things that they would gain by listening to it is, how would you like to do a wholesale deal? But you do a wholesale deal and you do not pay any taxes on it. I think it's the same general model. I actually bought a course from someone just to figure out sorry, just to find out exactly how they did it. So I'm sort of asking this question for the group, but it really is somewhat unique from the perspective that you're doing it in the self-storage arena.
Yeah, example of one I did. We put it on a contract. I had to put $5,000 earnest money deposit on the contract. I had to put equity trust company, FBO, Scott Speer, IRA, custodian, or however that wording is. I put that on the contract. That's who is actually going to buy the facility and or assigns. I learned that from Joe Levelbera, or an LLC to be formed. I had to put up $5,000 earnest money deposit to lock it up. Steve Peterson got the $5,000 earnest money deposit check. When we found another buyer for the facility, he paid the wholesale fee. Steve Peterson carved out half of that wholesale fee for my partner on that deal. We split it 50-50. And then the other part of the wholesale fee, he sent back to my IRA. But what my IRA also did was my IRA invested $30,000 back into the two facilities, and I'm a 10% owner. So in other words, I have a 10% ownership in a self-storage facility that's growing pretty nicely, two of them. So my $10,000, my return on investment, my cash on cash return every year is probably running about 20%. And we believe when we sell the facility, we probably will double the value of it. So I'll get my initial investment back plus another $30,000. And all that's tax-free. All the income I was getting every month, that's all tax-free. It all goes to my IRA. That's the thing. You can't receive the income when you're using your IRA. All goes back to your IRA, but it all goes back. And if it's a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, it all goes back tax-free. You can also get health spending accounts with them and child Coverdell accounts with them too for children's education.
Mhm.
So,
God, 20% is almost unheard of, right? Cash on cash is almost unheard of right now. My
Yeah.
God.
yeah, but it's I negotiated my way into that too. So with lenders and stuff like that, somebody just wants to be on a mortgage and they just want to look over our shoulder. We're doing that right now with people. They're loaning us money at 8%, but they get to look over our shoulder. They see what we're doing. They're learning self-storage that way too. So that's what another one that we're looking to do. We're probably gonna be reaching out to some people. So people are interested in loaning, watching over my shoulder and earning 8% interest, let me know. We're gonna be doing another one soon. So yeah, does that answer it, Leon?
Yep, that
Okay.
answered it. I take you out to lunch to get more refined details, but I think I got it.
All right.
Scott, let me ask you this. So down the road, you run across an opportunity that you need investors. Would you reach out to us, or what would
Yeah.
you? I mean, I want to be on that list.
All right. You're on the list.
All right. I mean,
You might be
Joe?
hearing from me in the next couple of weeks.
Why are you smiling, Joe? You on the list, buddy?
Joe knows what list he's on. That's why he's smiling. Joe is on the happy train list.
Yeah,
Joe.
get me on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Scott, the key thing is, I think most of the people on this call, Susan can give you the information and put all those folks on the list. Susan or either Andy can do that so that, folks who want to be on it and don't realize they want to be on it until, 6 months from now and say, oh, well, I want to know what it was that Scott was really talking. So, in other words, we'll provide you the list and then you can put the folks on it.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't spam anybody either. So if you don't want to be on the list, that's okay too. I don't mind.
Yeah. The people don't want to be on the list, they can just decline or whatever.
There you go. Thanks. What else?
What else is you mentioned? I may have missed it, Scott, but you mentioned you had a deal coming up.
Mhm.
What state?
New York State.
What part of New York State?
Yeah. Not far from you. Driving distance.
Okay.
All
Let
right.
me hop in there and jump over. Carter's been asking a lot of questions, so let me just jump over there and hop hop on this thing before Carl gets his question even out.
I'll
So
be
one of the
quiet.
things.
I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet. I know
Oh, no, you don't have to be quiet. I just need to get my question in.
All right.
One of the things that's going on is folks in New York State, they're looking at things and they're saying, oh my goodness, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. So I need to move to South Carolina. I need to move to Florida. I need to move. So any information that you can provide that would help our folks here in New York State be able to do a deal and not have to be concerned about all the ramifications of being in New York would be helpful. I recognize, that you're part of what we're talking about. It is in New York, but I think one of the things that is helpful is if it's not necessarily in Monroe County or not necessarily in New York itself. So a lot of the things you talked about are outside of New York State. So anything that fits in that category, which is so broad, until you would agree, it includes almost everything outside of New York.
Yeah. I feel safe investing in New York in self-storage. I know people are leaving. They need to store their stuff somewhere for a little while they're figuring out. And people move in and they move away to like South Carolina. They get on auto pay in New York State. They're like, I'll go get the stuff. I'll go get the stuff. I'll go get the stuff. 3 years later, you're still getting the
Yeah.
automatic payment. So I think, but we're buying in markets where there's a demand for it, and we're buying these things at the right price. I haven't, the 2 deals I'm working on in New York, I feel very confident in those, and I will be investing some of my own money into those. So, yeah.
I will mention
Yes.
that there are people on this call who do not have emails registered on FREIA or are not FREIA members, or if they are not FREIA members, they have not been to the website and signed up for newsletters and stuff because they have not provided an email address. So if you are interested in Scott's stuff and you are on this call, we would ask you kindly to either send him your email directly, or better yet, go and join FREIA, or at least go to the website and sign up to receive the newsletters. And that is that. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Any questions? Anybody else? I'll hang out for a little while longer. I told my wife I'd be a little bit later tonight than usual. She understood. If I want to go to Kumo space, we can, or if you guys want to hang out on Zoom, I'm good either way. I'll sit here, answer questions. You got my contact information there. If you call me and I don't call you back, don't take offense. Just going through some things with Chris's dad.
He's driving. You're driving. Okay. Scott. So your old email address, which many of us have, is no good or so valid?
Oh no, it's still good.
Okay.
It's still good.
So given
Scott, are you just buying on the East Coast, or are you also doing anything on the West Coast or in the middle of the United States?
Yes, all over, and even considering Japan, believe it or not.
Holy smokes!
Yeah. Yeah, talk about remote. You got that right. But yeah, it's been mainly East Coast, but Alabama, we're looking one in Mississippi. We have the one in Missouri, Texas. I'm looking at some land in Texas to buy and get approved, some land in California. So yeah, I'm really looking anywhere, Joe. And you see from the remote management that we can do, we can operate this thing anywhere. And me being in the RV, need be, let's go, Joe. You and I, La Vera, hop in the RV. Let's go. We're going to Kansas. I don't care. Let's go.
On wheels.
I'll meet you in Houston.
I'll tell you what, I was in Houston. I got out of there before the big freeze they had, man. I'm so glad I got out of there, but I cannot wait to go back for the rodeo when they start the rodeo back up. That sounds like so much fun.
We've probably been to 20 or 30 of them at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Great time.
Yeah. Yeah. And Texas tends to be a little more investor friendly with their laws and rules. I'm sure you know that, Leon.
That's
than
an
New York State.
understatement,
Yeah.
particularly when you compare it to New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good. What other questions?
Hey, Scott, great presentation.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. How important is the environmental?
To me, it's very important, Bob. I typically will get an environmental done or ask them for an environmental, just in case. You know, I don't know. I guess that's the conservative side of me, the cautious side of me. If I think there's a
So are
chance of
you
environmental
often
issues,
paying, are you often paying for it, or are they often paying for it?
both, but in most cases I'm paying for it. And it's usually between $1,500 and $1,900 for that first inspection. Is that what you see, Bob?
That's actually a little bit on the cheap side. I guess mine normal is probably about 2,500,
Okay.
but that's more for buildings and commercial spaces and stuff like that. But yeah, great. So happy you're getting around, man, and things are going well.
Thanks.
Boy, what a change from residential real estate in the city of Rochester.
Yeah, I definitely thought about
Unbelievable.
you. I definitely thought about you when we were doing the turnkey part of the business. So that was our thing. That was some good times. And, you know,
Absolutely.
I like being partners with you and like being friends with you better. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. So you and I got to do a deal. That's for sure. We'll resurrect and get all that going.
That sounds
So,
good. That
yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep me in mind, like Carl says. You can do one with Carl first, but then do one with me second.
Well, how about
No,
this? Whoever brings me the deal first
Yeah.
is the
yeah.
first one.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Bob and I are lined up there, buddy.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
that's for sure. No, I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah,
So,
we miss you, man.
yeah. So it you know, Bob, you know it. It's nice to be where you want to be when you want to be there. You know, and for you and I
Absolutely.
both, it's because of real estate. And Carl, I'm sure you'll attest to it too. And even Joe Lavabera, if he'd ever take vacation, I'm sure he could go anywhere he wants for as long as he wants, for, you know, as much as he wants. So, yep. So, and that's it for the new people. All of us were new at one point. All of us didn't know what we were doing. All of us were too scared to ask questions. All of us are like, man, you know, this guy is so big, I'll never catch up to him. It was just a few
No.
short years I was there, and trust me, I was nervous doing this presentation. I don't know a lot about self-storage, but I do know a few things. And that's why I'm just real thankful to be asked to do it. And, you know, if I can help somebody else, good.
You did great.
I-
Made it simple.
Awesome job. Awesome job. I remember Bob Napier and Scott Speer, you're on ground floor, and then I'm on speed dial and blah, 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 blah. And fast forward, you guys just kicked butt, and you're now mentors. You're now the master of your craft, and you're paying it forward to others. So that's so awesome.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Carl. And I appreciate that. And you do it too. It's Joe and I talk about it all the time with the alternatives thing. You know, people kind of come and go. They think, you know, I know everything about real estate. You know, FREIA can't help me anymore. You're missing it. I learn every time. I learn things tonight, you know, by the questions you guys were asking. And, you know, just stay at it, stay networking. So what if you don't do a deal for 2 years? We don't care. We just want you to stick around. There's good people here. We like dealing with you. We just want you to stick around because we're learning from you too. You ask questions we don't think of. So just stick around, everybody.
Yeah,
And every
absolutely,
day,
100% agree.
There you go.
Absolutely agree with that comment, Scott,
Well,
because it's about a not-for-profit organization where people, I don't know, I guess probably the right terminology will be they're paying forward. They are doing things so that they can help others. I mean, and it's true for not just me, but for all the people that's on this call who've been around for, 5, 10 years or whatever. You could only been around 2. It's what is it that you did to help someone else be successful? And that's really what it's all about. So really, really appreciate the presentation that you've given. You know, I probably have some questions that I would ask you that others wouldn't. I didn't realize I didn't have my camera turned on. I'll turn it on now. That others wouldn't. If we're sitting down and having a cup of coffee in the morning at some restaurant, so that puts us into the latter part of the year of this year. But I look forward to doing that when you're back here in Rochester. I think the presentation met all of my high standards of, boy, this has got to be good. And it wasn't good, it was better. I appreciate your going through and providing us with the information that you did. The one question I have, and I'll end this with that one question. How is it that the rest of the folks on the call, you mentioned the fact that people could actually send in their email information, but what if somebody wanted to, like Andy McQuaid, he's off doing this stuff with helping companies and making sure that they can get the best benefit out of the money they spend and spend it in a way where they're going to save a whole bunch of dollars they didn't even realize they were losing. But how could someone like that actually be involved with you and what's going on in this self-storage arena so that they could maybe partner with you, sort of do some other things along those lines? I know it's sort of a question that's sort of out of right field, but it's a way of people understanding how they could be engaged with you maybe a little bit different, particularly when you're doing some units that are in Missouri.
Just reach out, what Mike Wagner explains, and this is something I really learned from him, is look for places you want to go. Like his family goes to Walt Disney, I think 2 or 3 times a year. So he bought a self-storage facility near Walt Disney. And look in those areas. It's just like buying a house. If you find a deal, the money will come. If you're out there and you find a self-storage deal, see what information you can get, bring it to me. If it's something that works, have at it. If you can get everything and do it, great. Or we'll partner up and do it, or we'll just grab a bunch of free people and we'll all do it together. I hope that answers your question, but I tell people, hey, if you want to if you have family in Sumter, South Carolina, I know a guy who has a facility for sale in Sumter, South Carolina. Look for places that you want to go, and now it's a big tax write-off for you to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for people who maybe don't know who Mike Wagner is, he was a past member of Freedom First. He basically, and I think Susan might still be on the call, maybe not, but just keep me honest, so to speak. But basically, he acquired some properties here in Rochester, and then he looked at, well, how can I do the right things and understand what needs to be done? And he ended up joining Freedom First. And that was, and without going through a whole bunch of gory details because we're getting a little bit late now, but that's how he actually got started. And, as I mentioned earlier, to a large extent, he is a Freedom First, for sake of better words, creation. And one of the things that we've had him come on and speak before, clearly, as you would expect, with people with great ideas and great ways of doing things, he's moved forward. And so maybe we'll have him back to put on a presentation or a workshop. You know, certainly we haven't had the opportunity to do a real estate summit like we've done in we had to go back a couple of years, but we've done 2 or 3 of them in a row, and maybe that's something we consider as we go forward. But have him be a speaker there, because sounds like he's moved his product, his offering, the way he does things up to the next level. It'd be great to hear all the things that he's doing. So I'm glad you were able to present some of that tonight too.
Good. Yeah.
Real quick,
Excellent.
Scott, thanks for the
Yeah.
presentation. This is actually my first FREIA meeting, so thank you, Joe, for inviting me to tag along. My name is John Henderson. I'm really excited to attend the next meeting and definitely meet some of you guys, if not all of you guys, hopefully in the near future. So thanks. That was a really good presentation. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you. Also attend the subgroup things too. If you look on the
Yeah.
calendar, there's subgroups, and Joe and I are
I
doing
will
one next
definitely
week.
be
so-
there.
Yeah,
Sounds good to
excellent.
me.
That being said, I will say that for people who are on here as we are losing bodies, make sure that if you are a FREIA member, you need to go into your Home Depot Pro Extra system and make sure that your information matches exactly what is in FREIA's system. So email address, phone number, company name, and your name all needs to match what's in Home Depot's system. We haven't really figured out how to discuss why yet, but there will be changes coming in 2022 that everybody needs to be prepared for. So make sure your stuff matches, and keep in mind that over half of FREIA's operating budget went to Under One Roof in 2020. So your membership doesn't just get you rewards and rebates and perks and awesome networking opportunities and all that other stuff. It also helps to keep landlording / property management / the real estate industry alive in New York State. So that's it. I'm done.
Thanks, Andy.
Let's close with this, Leon. Scott, you got financial independence, the ability to be mobile. So when we have our August picnic, you will be here.
Depends on what the date is, but there's a good possibility.
The
Good.
date is very simple. It's August 19th.
Okay.
It's a Thursday.
We would
Yes.
love to have,
Expect see
love to
you
have you here.
here.
Yeah, I'd love to have you here, buddy.
Very good chance I'll be there then. That coincides with some other things we got going on. So
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks,
Yep.
everyone.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Yep. Bye. Thanks, Andy.